All right, the 95th Academy Awards just wrapped up. I forgot last time, by the way, I didn't do a paper ballot last time. So I kind of in the process of the Oscars, I finally yeah, this is going to be easier if I just have it written down instead of taking notes on the computer all night and stuff. So, that being said, overall for me, 16 out of 23 categories correct. So obviously that's not quite the same as last year, where I got to do a little, thing with the 22 out of 23. That wasn't going to happen again. And this year we knew was going to be tougher. There were a few more categories up in the air and stuff. Not to say there weren't any last year, but there were a couple more this year. So that if you round it up, it's to 70% accuracy. So this is still about a little better than I normally do. There was a stretch there, like the 2015, 16, 17, and 18 too. Some of those years, I was like barely at 60% on accuracy. So I'll take 70. And I felt like when, except for maybe the editing category, the end stretch got a lot better for predicting too. But I guess the biggest takeaways from the night here, let's begin with Everything Everywhere All at Once. 7 of its 11 go to it. So I know it's been my mantra for a long time now about the years of the big Oscar sweeps are over. Maybe Everything Everywhere All at Once just brought it all back. That could be. And this could be a one-off, and we might, we'll need to see what the next 2, 3, 4 years look like at the Oscars for films that can win multiple. But this was generally, again, it's kind of like what I was saying a little bit in one of the last videos, where Parasite had the passion votes here 3 years ago. That had the passionate support and everything. And going into the ceremony as the underdog, it won 4. Everything Everywhere All at Once, being the favorite going into the Oscars this year and having all that passion, ended up winning 7. So, so I guess that might be the biggest lesson learned is, hey, if you've got a film that's people are just extremely passionate about, like openly passionate about, and everything, look for it to do maybe a little better than expected. And so I guess we can just kind of roll down the categories there. So we do see Everything Everywhere All at Once win not only for picture, not only for director, which were expected, not only for supporting actor, which was expected, and lead actress, which in the last week and a half, Michelle Yeoh pulled out in front. Jamie Lee Curtis also won. So there you go. There's our third film in history to win 3 acting categories. And the first of the 3 acting category wins to move on to win Best Picture. It also won for original screenplay, and it did win for editing, and I was just being stubborn in that one, so okay. And then it should be noted too, by the way, something I didn't realize, with Brendan Fraser winning Best Actor for The Whale, A24 took 7 of the top 8 categories. And somebody else is going to have to help me with the research here. When was the last time that happened? When was the last time we saw a studio take of the top 8 categories, take a significant number of them? You'll have some years, where you do have a film that wins, maybe 3 or 4 of the top 8 categories. Like, Silence of the Lambs takes 5 of the top 8 and everything. So but I don't think Orion had any other winners that year in the top categories for something that, Silence of the Lambs was not nominated in up there, and so on and so forth. It's just not something we usually see. So that was a big thing. So A24, I got to say, after Moonlight, they've got to be really, really proud of their work this year. Let's see. Otherwise, for multiple winners, All Quiet on the Western Front, I had down for 3. It won 4. It kind of surprised us a little bit, and also won in the production design category. So otherwise, it took the other 3 that I had it down for: cinematography, score, and international feature. So that ends up being the second most awarded film of the night. Otherwise, for multiple winners, we're really just looking at, I believe, The Whale, which took makeup, and it also took Best Actor. And I think that's it. I think we just had those 3 films. Those are the only 3 that won multiple Oscars tonight. So there you go. Man, just for me too, I think looking back now, it's like, look at all the films that did end up going home empty-handed. Not only Banshees with 9 nominations, Elvis with 8 nominations. They could not find a place to award Elvis. That shocked me. Fabelmans with 7 nominations. Yeah, to be expected. Yeah, we couldn't find a place for that one either, so that ended up going home empty-handed as well. Tar went home 0 for 6 as well. So, so to my point, in one of the other videos there, 2 of our top 3 went home empty-handed. If you count, if you still counted Fabelmans as one of the top 3, if you counted All Quiet on the Western Front as one of the top 3, okay, then that argument doesn't stand. But yeah, so I guess that part's a little more subjective there. So I guess we can roll down the categories here real quick. Just talk about who won. Was it expected? Was it not expected? Did I predict it or not? Blah, blah, blah. Really quick. Picture, we all knew was Everything Everywhere All at Once. Director, the same. Actor, Brendan Fraser did win. So I was worried about this one. I was genuinely worried about this one. I know a lot of people have been commenting lately saying that Austin Butler was very easily out front here, and I was like, well, I didn't want to comment back to you guys. No, I'm not going to do that. But I can say it in video form, can I? Anyways, but no, and Austin Butler, I will see the film here probably in the next few weeks, just because I did that last year too with like West Side Story I didn't get to, or Licorice Pizza I didn't get to, so Elvis I know I need to get to, and what are the other ones? Women Talking I didn't get to, Triangle of Sadness, and All Quiet I didn't get to either. So yeah, I've got some homework to do. Anyways, and I'm sure Austin in the coming years he'll have another role that will come up that he'll be nominated for again, and I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Even though I'm not, Baz Luhrmann's style for me sometimes is overload, so I don't always enjoy his films very much. So that's part of the reason too why Elvis is not already one that I've checked out. Michelle Yeoh did win for Best Actress. We kind of commented on that one. Kei Kwan, also for Everything Everywhere at Once, and supporting actor Jamie Lee Curtis pulled I would say mini upset. I mean, I think a lot of people were split on this category, whether it was going to be her, Angela Bassett, or Carrie Condon. I ended up picking Carrie Condon, so that didn't work out. And with the popularity and rumor stuff, Angela I thought had a really good shot too, but nope, they go Jamie Lee Curtis. So it just turned out if you were in that film, there you go. You were likely to win. Original screenplay also went to Everything Everywhere All at Once. That was a little easier. Women Talking did win adapted screenplay. No big surprise there. In the feature categories, animated feature was the first award of the night, and that went to Pinocchio. No surprise there. International feature was All Quiet. No surprise. Doc feature was Navalny, which took over All the Beauty and the Bloodshed and Fire of Love and a couple of those other ones more recently, but still ended up being a correct pick there. Next up would be cinematography. All Quiet on the Western Front won there, and that one seemed like it was a genuine race between that one and Elvis. But again, if you were Elvis tonight, you kind of left the building empty-handed and stuff. Let's see here. Editing, I was just stubborn on this one. I was not, it was a point that a lot of people have made, and I was like, I probably should be listening to that, and that's the point. Hey, Everything Everywhere All at Once, as popular as it was through the season with the Guild wins and everything, the only award it won at BAFTA, the one awards place that didn't love it, they still gave it film editing. So that one I should have seen coming. Yeah. I was sticking with the idea of most editing winning, so that's Top Gun Maverick. Plus, it was a very early pick from me from early in the season, so I was like, it'd be nice to humble brag about that one. But I do get that with Brendan Fraser and with Kei Kwan, though, so I guess I get a little bit back for that. In the design categories, costume design was a little bit of an upset, too, with Black Panther coming back to win. It had some momentum early in the season with Ruthie Carter possibly winning her second Oscar, which she did. But it felt like Elvis had a lot of momentum going into the ceremony there, but nope. Instead, it was Ruthie Carter winning. Though the moment when she was on stage and she said, "Chadwick, please take care of Mom," that was that just made me say, okay, I don't care anymore if I got that right or not. That was a beautiful moment. Very nice moment. On the production design side, Babylon again had all the momentum going into the ceremony. It had the Guild win, it had the BAFTA win, it had the Critics' Choice win, and they go with the war movie. which is weird because here a few years ago, it was the period piece movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that had the momentum, and I just picked, or that had some momentum. Then 1917 won a BAFTA, and I thought that would carry over, so I picked that one, the war film, to win for production design. But it ended up going to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, this year, it's flipped, where the momentum seemed to be with Babylon, but instead they give it to the war film, All Quiet on the Western Front. So I guess I can't get that one right. Next up would be the music categories. And both these I was correct on. All Quiet on the Western Front did win for score, and Natu Natu did win for original song. And I enjoyed I can't remember if he was the writer or the lyricist, the one that he sang some Carpenter's lyrics to his story or whatever. That was great. Carpenter's love, baby. Next up would be makeup and hairstyling. I was wrong on this one too. I had Elvis, and I was seeing a split actually in this category between the acting win and the makeup win. They went with the Whale, so when they said the Whale, I was like, I think Brendan's got it. And it turned out to be true. But still an incorrect pick for me on this one. So yeah, again, another prime category where Elvis seemed to have the momentum, but just couldn't pull it out. Sound category, this one was Top Gun, so there you go. They did end up giving it one, at least. Visual effects was also Avatar, The Way of Water, the expected winner there. The shorts categories I kind of blew up on. Animated short, I was correct with The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. Live action short, I had switched to An Irish Goodbye, only to switch to The Red Suitcase, so that didn't pan out very well. And I did have The Elephant Whisperers for a long time in Doc Short, but I sensed the momentum growing for Stranger at the Gate, and nope, they went with Elephant Whisperers. So if I just stuck with that one, I would have gotten two more right, and I would be sitting at, closer to 80% accuracy, but you know what? You got to take those shots sometimes. Like the Kerry Condon thing, the Red Suitcase thing for me this year. I had to take some shots this year. I didn't take any last year. I really stuck with just the traditional picks, and it paid off. I did really well last year, but I just felt like I couldn't do that again. I felt like I had to go my own way on one or two categories here and there, and sometimes you got to do that, Yeah, so last I checked, I saw Pete Hammond had like All Quiet on the Western Front for picture, and there was a little bit of a sense that the BAFTA overlap was going to be that significant where that would happen this year, in spite of him, Edward Berger, not being up for director and stuff. But hey, you know what? You got to take those shots sometimes, and when you get those right, you get all the glory. You get all the bragging rights you want. So there you go. I guess I can comment a little bit on just the ceremony itself. I just felt this one felt for a 95th. It felt kind of tired. I don't know if that's just me because it's daylight saving times too, which I know is always a big excuse for everybody, but this show felt tired to me. There didn't really seem, and not to say that the Oscars is always like a big forward momentum show. Usually it does kind of feel a little slow, a little bit like, hey, we get some momentum with some prizes handed out, and then we have a song, and then blah, blah, blah. Go on and on and on. But this one in particular felt kind of slow. Jimmy Kimmel is a host this time. I think of his 3 times doing the show, I think I have to rank this last. I literally had no big laughs in the monologue. The monologue just didn't work for me. A lot of expected jokes, a lot of things that I sensed coming and stuff, and it was like, yeah, it was like little things like that. It was like nothing that made me like laugh out loud like some. Even I'll say this: Neil Patrick Harris, as disastrous as a host as he was, as everyone now says in retrospect, it's funny because night of, in the room environment I was in, which was the biggest audience I've seen an Oscar show with, it was probably like 60, 70, 80 people. We were laughing loudly. Like his opening joke about we're here to celebrate Hollywood's. What was the joke? I had it in my head. I had the exact quote in my head, but our best and whitest or something like that. Sorry, Hollywood's big night where we celebrate our whitest. I mean brightest. It was a joke about that because it was an Oscar so white year, and that one I laughed very loudly at that at the time. I remember just the delivery of it too. I think was really just caught my funny bone. And I'm not like I don't watch his How I Met Your Mother or whatever. I never watched that show, so it's not like he's a particular favorite of mine or anything. But no, I just that joke stuck with me, and I thought that was funny that year. But yeah, Jimmy this year, it's like, no, the 2017 one, I'll say go back to. His monologue for that was really, really good. Really capitalized on the nominees that year, and especially when you have Matt Damon as a nominee, it makes sense. But this year, yeah. By the way, I thought there was a huge blown opportunity this year, because there was a really good gag. One of the funnier parts of the show for me was when you had Elizabeth Banks present, I think it was the visual effects category, and she had a guy in a bear suit behind her, and yep, cocaine. It was a Cocaine Bear reference. And the Cocaine Bear was, doing the thing, blah blah blah. And a couple times it looked like he was going to take the head off. I was like, oh, who is it under the head? It's got to be somebody significant, And it could have been somebody that Elizabeth worked with on a previous movie or something. It could be her partner from like the Pitch Perfect movies that they did the commentary on, whatever. I can't remember the actor's name, but John Michael Higgins or something like that. That just sprung in my head. Maybe that's dead wrong, but I don't know. I only saw one of those movies. But yeah, I was like, okay, maybe it's somebody significant. We'll find out who it is later on in the show or something. And then Kimmel did a little thing. He had a little bit of time to do some jokes with the audience and stuff while they were rearranging the stage, which I thought was nice and transparent. So it was almost like kind of funny on purpose that way. But then the Cocaine Bear came back, and I was like, it's going to be Matt Damon. It's going to be Matt Damon under the bear thing, isn't it? And nope, Bear never came back. Nothing. Unless there was something in the credits of the Oscars tonight when I turned the TV off, unless there's something like that. But I was like, you blew it, guys. Oh, that could have been a great joke. That would have been really funny if it was Matt Damon under the bear suit and he like, hey, or something, if he brought it back like Jimmy was just doing one other quick thing, and then the bear comes back, and you're like, wait a minute, who the hell is that? And then he takes the thing off, and it's Matt Damon. That would have been great. I think they really missed an opportunity there. And I don't know, maybe Matt Damon's off shooting a movie somewhere, abroad or whatever. But with which broad, I couldn't tell you. There, I thought that was, okay, maybe that's funnier than anything you heard tonight at the Oscar show. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I just, his humor didn't land with me this time. It's like, I don't know. It's like I can't even remember any jokes from the monologue. And I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't particularly funny this time. Yeah, some of the presenters too, like some of the pairings felt odd. Like Idris Elba and who was he with again? It was Idris Elba and Nicole Kidman. It's like they haven't done a movie together or anything. That didn't. It's like I personally like it when it's like actors that have worked together or actors that just off the osmosis of being next to each other, they're going to create some chemistry. Like Emily Blunt and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson together, it was like, okay, they haven't done a movie together. There wasn't really I didn't sense a lot of great chemistry there as presenters and stuff. Anyways, but yeah, it's like at least, like I was saying the other day at the SAG show when they did Jenny, or is it Jenny or Jenna? I forget, Ortega and Aubrey Plaza together. It's like, okay, both of them are, playing kind of, they're known for playing weird characters and stuff. It's like, okay, them paired together makes sense, and they pulled it off really well. The Oscars need to take a note off something like that. And they've done good pairs together before, but I don't know. Okay. Oh, actually, okay. I will say one joke from the monologue actually that I'm now remembering that was I did laugh at was the whole thing about the extra security, and they're like, okay. And he starts pointing around to the different celebrities in the room for like who's going to protect him and stuff. And it's like he's naming off like who was it? Shoot, I'm trying to remember some of the first people that he named off. A couple of them were nominees, right? Well, he named off like Michelle Yeoh because of her, the Tai Chi or whatever, all the martial arts that she did, in the film and stuff. He named off... Who else? I thought there was somebody else he named off. But he started naming off like, it was like Mandalorian. He said, you'll have to deal with a Mandalorian because Pedro Pascal was there. And stuff like that. And then he got to Spider-Man, and then Andrew Garfield looks and he's like, I don't know. That was a great... I don't know if they planned that or not, but that was fantastic. That was hilarious. And then, of course, he's like, you'll have to deal with my right-hand man, Guillermo. And then it was Guillermo del Toro they showed. Which I think they made a joke similar to that at the 2017 Oscars, because that was the year of Shape of Water. But still, that I genuinely laughed at. I'm remembering that. Yeah, that was genuinely funny. I laughed at that one. So there you go. You get 1 credit point for that. Yeah, otherwise, yeah, I just felt like the show was kind of slow. It was, there was definitely some things, it was like, it felt kind of weird at first because there's a whole thing about the Little Mermaid preview and they're talking about Disney and stuff. I'm like, yeah, ABC, owned by Disney. Makes sense. They do a self-promotion. But then they did a thing for Warner Brothers because that was also 100 years old this year and stuff. So it's like, okay, now I kind of see what you're doing. But again, Morgan Freeman and Margot Robbie, it's like, they haven't done a film together. Poor Morgan Freeman's in his mid-80s now, so you don't expect like a huge, spry, big entertainment thing out of him. I mean, you can get a good laugh out of him or something. But it was like, that didn't really, the pairing didn't really make sense. I guess in a way if you're going for old Hollywood with new Hollywood, but it's like, well, even then, Morgan's career as an actor and stuff, it's like, he didn't really blossom until like the late 80s, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like who Margot has worked with who would like, somebody who would fit that role, somebody who was around and did films in like, 50s, 60s, 70s, stuff like that. I don't know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like any like some older actors who worked on like Suicide Squad or like Wolf of Wall Street or something. But I don't know. None are springing to mind. So I guess, I don't know. It's like, I guess I get the angle they were going for. It's just not particularly, didn't particularly work for me. I guess my screen went dead there, so sorry. I guess I don't really have way too much else to say, like, as far as the actual show and stuff. But yeah, I did, toward the end, it just felt like, okay, looking forward to the rest of the categories being announced and stuff, and I was still, kind of nervous about the Best Actor pick and stuff, so, and a little nervous about Best Actress, because again, I was still wary of Tar going home 0 for 6, but I was like, especially after like Elvis kept losing some of those tech categories too, I was like, oh my god, I'm like, it's The Favorite all over again, because The Favorite I thought maybe had a shot in some of those tech categories, and it just kept losing, I'm like, it's gonna go home empty-handed, what the hell? And then Olivia Colman. So this time I was like, okay, Elvis keeps losing. Austin Butler. It's going to be Austin Butler, isn't it? Oh no. They are going to split makeup and actor, and I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to get both of them wrong. But okay, it worked out this time. But yeah, that's I'm still really shaking my head at that. I don't know how Elvis gets 8 nominations and gets nothing. Especially a huge tech-heavy film like that too. It's like, it just doesn't make sense. Banshees, I just, I guess, went 0 for 5 at SAG and goes 0 for 9 here. Also, it is a case where all the SAG winners crossed over, which, again, I was really wary of, and that's why I didn't pick them all this time. It's just, I don't know. It's, it was definitely a big wave of momentum at the end, so that's again, that's probably my biggest Oscar lesson this year is just, okay, if you have a film that's projected to be a front runner and it has not only momentum but also has a lot of popularity behind it, a lot of enthusiasm behind it, it's okay to start predicting it and stuff and, call for it and maybe some minor upsets like Jamie Lee Curtis and stuff. It's okay to predict it because it might happen. It's also okay to predict that films that are, projected to be higher up in the list for Best Picture, films that get multiple nominations, if there's just no obvious place to award it, it's okay to predict that it's going to go home empty-handed. You don't, like myself this year, I didn't have to switch to Carrie Condon. I probably would have stuck with Angela Bassett because I just didn't believe that Everything Everywhere was going to pull 3 acting wins. I just couldn't see it until it happened. And I guess the Nepo Baby stuff from Jamie Lee Curtis ended up not hurting her at all. And one thing, too, actually, I did not point out the other day about the Best Actor debate. I think maybe there are some people that are a little, like, annoyed with Austin Butler just as far as the Elvis voice thing. I don't know if that's actually, a huge thing. But I know there's people that make fun of it. There are people that are like, he still has the Elvis voice, over, a year and a half after they wrapped it up and stuff. And it's like, maybe some people just... they got turned off by it. I don't know. Maybe that's a small factor. Maybe it's a bigger factor than we know. I don't know. And it could be also tonight just because Elvis just was not, it's a movie that they'd like to nominate, but not one they like to award. Again, we can look at Turning Point, American Hustle, some of these other films that have gotten, film nominated, or Color Purple as well. Films that get those, 7, 8, 9, 10 nominations, but there's just nowhere to go with them. There's just no obvious category to give a award to. Let's see, what else? I don't know. I guess the rule about the BAFTA Best Picture winner thing, it's back again this year, like it was last year. Yeah, because I think, Nomadland is like the only one since 12 Years a Slave to do it, to win Best Picture at the Oscars and Best Film at BAFTA, so that's staying true. The voter overlap, it counts in certain places, but not always. And definitely, I think if SAG had happened before BAFTA, like it usually does, then I think, okay, we would have seen, I don't know, maybe then we would have, we would have seen more tempting to go with, with Carrie Condon. A little, we would have seen more people do that. A few more people maybe would have picked Barry Keoghan instead of Ke Kwan, maybe, but I don't know. But yeah, otherwise, some of the BAFTA winners that carried over, a lot of them were some of the wins for All Quiet on the Western Front, like score and cinematography, and I guess technically, those in the 2 tech categories, those are the important ones. I don't know who was. I mean, I named it as a possibility for production design, but I didn't really think it was all that serious a player. But boom, there it is. Maybe stick a little bit more with those makeup and hairstyling wins crossing over with acting wins when you have a likely one. Something like Judy or Joker, we knew was probably going to get blown out by Bombshell, so that makes sense that year. But otherwise, with Darkest Hour, with this one, with The Iron Lady, there's one more obvious one I'm forgetting, but was it one last year? Yeah, Eyes of Tammy Faye. That's right. Yeah. If it's more obvious, go for it. Go for it, big time. Anything else I can pick up on here? No, I was going to say something about the shorts, about just sticking with the predicted winner, but nah. I start doing that, and that's when the upsets happen. Then I go my own way, and then they go with the ones that are projected. Makes no sense. Anything else I can say here? Not really, no. I don't know. It was kind of a different season overall. I mean, we had the blockbusters back and everything, but it's like some of the guilds were weird this year. Like All Quiet on the Western Front was extremely quiet from the guilds and stuff, and then it finally started, hit the big one at BAFTA, hit the jackpot at BAFTA with 14 nominations, and then shows up big at the Oscars, but missing in key categories, like directing and editing. Let's see, what else? Everything Everywhere All at Once, really didn't have too many falling points there through the season. BAFTA didn't love it that much. Golden Globes didn't overly love it, but still turned out pretty good. I don't know what else. I mean, I guess, BAFTA, some of the crossover didn't happen, especially with all the Elvis wins. So, they loved Elvis and they loved All Quiet. And Elvis ended up going home empty-handed. All Quiet did a little better than maybe some expected here tonight. But otherwise, it didn't pull the big upset for Best Picture. It didn't win Screenplay like some people thought it could. It didn't pull off, like some people I heard last minute were kind of putting it more into like the sound category, or what was the other one it was up for? I think I already named it Screenplay, and a couple for Best Picture, but still, or maybe makeup. I think I heard one person say they were actually thinking an upset that Elvis and the Whale were going to cross each other out, and they were going to go with All Quiet on the Western Front. But if that was the case, I think they would go with something more prosthetics heavy, like Batman with the Colin Farrell makeup job and stuff. But yeah, that wasn't it wasn't quite the year for Batman, I don't think. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess that's all I got to say for this one. Like I said, one day I think I'll. Speaking of carpenters, I think one day I'll get somebody that'll get me the rights to one of the books or something. Then I'll try to do a screenplay of that. We'll see if it goes anywhere. Otherwise, I'd love to see what's happening next year. I mean, we kind of at this point, by the way, I wasn't. I guess I wasn't prepared for this, but we can go into maybe an early, very, very, very early, very, very, not going to happen thing for who's projected. Which films are projected to come out this year that maybe are going to play a role in next year's Oscars. And let's see, just looking right now from stuff that's out already, I don't think we're going to see much, if anything. Let's see, I guess we can keep... let's look ahead to stuff that's coming out later this year. And maybe not stuff that's always necessarily like projected to be like an Oscar front runner, but something that, at least looks kind of entertaining or something, Like I'm kind of curious about the Air movie, which is the Michael Jordan kind of film around him, not based on him, but around like the Air Jordans and stuff. It's it's coming from 2-time Academy Award winner Ben Affleck, has also Matt Damon in it, and Viola Davis, and a good cast there and stuff. I'm curious about that one. I don't know if it's going to be like a major player or anything, but again, curious about that one. Let's see here. I don't think A24 with Beau's Afraid. I don't think that one's going to go anywhere. It's Ari Aster's back with that one. Let's see. The previous 2 Guardians movies have gotten at least 1 nomination each. We got Guardians 3 coming out in May. Little Mermaid. I don't know. Just the little preview they showed tonight at the Oscars. The visual effects in that, I hope they're not finished, because some of those effects looked like garbage. Especially the ship burning scene and like crashing scene. That looked like garbage. They really need to rotoscope that a little better or something. That did not look good. Well, okay, animated feature. We might see if Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse can do well. That one maybe gets in. The first one won for animated feature, of course. Maybe The Flash can get an effects nomination or something if it's a popular enough movie. I don't know. I'm kind of. It's weird because the previews and stuff with that, it's like, okay, Michael Keaton, I'm excited to see him back as Batman, of course. He is Batman. I'm just going to say it. And leave it there. He is Batman. But I don't know. It's like part of me is like, okay, but the 89 and 92 films, they were of their time. It's those movies don't really mesh very well with like the kind of superhero movies we get today that are more extreme computer generated, visual effects in your face kind of movies. So it's like part of me is like, okay, if they pull it off and it's really great and he fits with that movie, awesome. I'm really looking forward to seeing that, and hope it turns out that way. But if it turns out to be really bad, like it's just not a fit and it's bad, it's like, oh, it's a thing that should have stayed in the 80s, 90s. But we'll see. I'm kind of cautiously optimistic about that one. Indiana Jones is back, of course, with the Dial of Destiny, which I have to say, the first trailer, I was excited to see Sala back. Every time Sala was on screen, I was like, yeah, Sala, that's awesome. But I'm still generally worried about Harrison pushing, he's in his 80s, he was pushing his 80s when he was filming this. I'm still a little worried that he's just not going to be convincing enough in the role. But that being said, the first trailer, it's like, okay, and some of the comedy in the first trailer also was off, and I was like, oh, I don't know about that. But they've got James Mangold, who just killed it with Ford v Ferrari here not too long ago, and everything, and it's like, okay, the title I'm like kind of mixed on. It feels a little cheesy, but I guess no cheesier than Temple of Doom, I guess, just as a title to say. Otherwise, I guess, by the way, the 30-second trailer, or TV spot, I should say, from the Super Bowl of Indiana Jones, I loved that. I was like, that was better than the full trailer that we got. So if that's a better idea of what the movie's going to be, then sign me up. It's going to be excellent, and could be a really good way for the character to go out, at least with Harrison playing the part. But if it's more like the trailer, we're probably going to get a mixed bag, similar to what we got with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. We've got the next Mission Impossible coming out in July. These movies have like always evaded the Oscars for like nominations, even like the sound categories and stuff. We'll see if this one, after Tom Cruise's last one with Top Gun, doing pretty well at this year's Academy Awards, they even got a fucking screenplay nomination, for Christ's sakes. Still annoyed by that. We'll see if maybe he gets a little better luck with this round of Mission Impossible. Then, of course, also in July, we've got Nolan's new film, Oppenheimer, with a stacked cast, and yeah. I don't, like I've said though a couple times before, some of Nolan's more recent films have just not hit with me. I think his last one that I truly enjoyed a lot was Dark Knight Rises, and I know that's one that some fans are still pissed off about. But like Inception was also an out of the park grand slam for me. The Dark Knight still holds up really really well, and it pains my heart to say that movie's 15 years old this year. It's like, oh, it makes me feel old. But no, since then it's like Interstellar I thought was a mixed bag. Dunkirk, surprisingly, was a mixed bag for me. Tenet pissed me off, and I didn't get it, and it kind of mocked me. It felt like the film was mocking me for not getting it, so yeah, I'm not really happy about that one. So Oppenheimer, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be a little, keep it, at a safe distance kind of thing, because it's like, something like this, I'm like, this feels more like his wheelhouse. I think he can do a great job with this, but I'm not going to get overly excited for this one. No. Barbie, we've also got coming out in July. And this one, I'll tell you what, with Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach doing this one, and a seemingly good cast and everything, I don't know if it's going to be Oscar fair, but that might be it might actually be kind of fun. I don't know. And I'll see. I don't know how tongue in cheek it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be like a PG movie or more like PG-13. I know they're not going to do an R-rated movie, but but it'll be like, hey, it'd be kind of fun to see what they do with it. I know it's not necessarily something that's in my wheelhouse or anything, but it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I'd pay to see it. I might see it online or something after it's out, after a while, but we'll see. Let's see what else. I'm getting into August here. Luca Guadagnino is going to have a new one out called Challengers. I haven't heard much about this one. Romantic sports comedy. Okay. I guess it has to do. ATP Challenger Tour with tennis. Okay. Something to do with tennis, and it's Mike Faced and Zendaya. So, okay, we'll see about that one. What else do we have here? F. Gary Gray's going to have a movie called Lift from Netflix. Looks like just a heist movie. Okay. Some of his other ones, yeah, sometimes they get some attention. Let's see here. Looking for like directors. Next Goal Wins, which is kind of a delayed film. Possibly just because of Michael Fassbender's involvement, but yeah, that's Taika Waititi's follow-up. He did that one before Thor, I believe, so before the latest Thor, that is. So yeah, we'll see where that one goes. Let's see. I'm not seeing a bunch on the calendar yet for like October. Let's get into November here. Dune Part 2. The first Dune did fairly well at the Oscars, winning a lot of those tech categories. So we'll see about that one. Possibly another player in animated feature is the sequel, long-awaited sequel. It's been many, many years. Chicken Run: Dawn of the Nugget, which is from going to be from Aardman, of course. That title makes me laugh. Yeah, it makes me want to go back to see. Okay, does that first Chicken Run hold up? I'll bet it does. That was one I saw a couple times as a kid, and it was just not really for me, but I still enjoyed it while I watched it. It just wasn't one for me for like rewatches and stuff. Otherwise, I'm really interested in The Killer, which is the David Fincher's new film. Actually written, or screenplay is by Andrew Kevin Walker, who... he's done some stuff. I always remember, like, he did the script for Sleepy Hollow, which actually was a pretty decent script, for kind of a whodunit kind of movie. Otherwise, I haven't really seen anything that he's done since then. Like, he's not on a series or anything right now. Like he did the 2010 remake of The Wolfman, I guess. But I guess that's based on a dark, either it's a what'd they say it was? Graphic novel. Okay, it's based on a graphic novel. But Fassbender's in that one, as is Tilda Swinton. So we'll see about that one. Let's see here. Alexander Payne's new movie, The Holdovers, with Paul Giamatti. So they're teaming back up. Davine Joy Randolph is also in that one. Let's see here. Kind of sounds like it's like a school-based kind of thing. I don't know if that's schools in college or schools in high school or something else, but yeah. Let's see. We've also got. We'll see about. I'm not sure what to think about this one. Wonka is scheduled to come out in December with Timothée Chalamet. It's from Paul King, who did the Paddington movies, which have a really nice following. I actually did rent and saw the first Paddington, and I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's for what it is, for the type of humor it's going for and the kind of family friendly stuff. I was like, you know what, you can do a lot worse for the kind of movie that they're going for. So I kind of recommended that one, kind of surprisingly, but yeah, I just don't know what to think about a new version of Wonka. It's like, okay, we did the thing with Johnny Depp and Tim Burton in 2005, and most of us have forgotten about it or tried to forget about it. But yeah. We can, yeah. So it's like, part of me is just like, it's always just going to be Gene Wilder in that role, and it's kind of, yeah. Plus, I'm not really sure, too, and personally, without getting on a soapbox or anything, but there was some recent news with like Roald Dahl and Ian Fleming with their novels basically being rewritten to a small extent by removing certain words, phrases, and stuff, which personally I'm not in favor of. I'm not in favor of at all. I saw a video the other day. It's this guy I watch on YouTube. He does a lot of Bond content. I'm forgetting his name right now, but I do recommend him. He's an actual guy from Britain, so he knows. And he's got like always on his bookshelf. He's got like 16 Bond books and stuff, and not necessarily Ian Fleming books, but like genuine like behind the scenes, like how they made the series and stuff, or like reflections on the series, or memoirs from Bond actors or creators and stuff. But he pointed out an example, because I think he kind of disagreed with this as well. And summed it up better than I ever could. It's like, remember, on some of the releases of the Warner Brothers cartoons, like the old Warner Brothers cartoons, like the old, what do they used to call it? Medley, something medley, whatever it is. But it's like, the 30s, 40s cartoons, the originals. A lot of them did have some racial stereotyping or, just generally stuff that just doesn't politically fly today, to put it lightly. And basically there was a disclaimer in front of those cartoons that says, hey, this has stuff that will make some people uncomfortable and just generally is not, politically correct by today's standards. To remove them and pretend they didn't happen is worse than just is a bad idea. Basically, is what they got to, and I 100% agree with that because yeah, just again without being on a big soapbox for a minute, it's like, guys, I disagree with this wholeheartly. It's a thing where it's like everything to every extent. This YouTube video right now. Great novels from the 1800s and 1900s, movies of the future are always products of their time. They are products of their time. Sometimes they're made for things that are ahead of their time or behind their times, weirdly enough, but they are products of their time and they should be displayed as such. And it's a bad idea to retroactively go back and change stuff and pretend that, to go in with it with the rose-colored glasses and just pretend that everything has always been pitch perfect all the time politically. Because again, I always say this, it's like, okay, what's politically correct today may not be politically correct tomorrow. I always use the example of like, hey, if what are people 100 years from now going to look at us and say, why were you driving around cars that ran on gasoline? It's like, you couldn't have walked everywhere, you couldn't have rode a bike everywhere. It's like stuff like that, and it's like there's stuff that's going to be in the future where today's technology is going to be defunct or whatever, and they're going to look back at us as barbarians, as just chaotic people running around like chickens with their heads cut off and blah blah blah, all that stuff. So yeah, just with Roald Dahl's books were ones that they said they were targeting for removing words like fat and stupid and ugly and things like that, and I'm like, good lord. Good lord, whatever happened to sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's like, come on. Kids, they have to a small extent, I have to say this, kids have to grow up with those words in the vernacular. Otherwise, they're not going to know what the fuck to do when somebody else brings those words in when they're older. If you don't grow up with that shit and and you don't allow it to prepare you for life, you get a hell of a lot worse going forward. Let's see here, because one of the quick thing I can mention too is to back that up is that there was a study done. Dr. Phil talked about this on a Joe Rogan podcast, just to name that off. But because I've seen the clips, there was a time where he's like, okay, they did a study once where they took, I think it was either high school or college kids, and they sat them down and they did a test where it was a totally different test environment than you would think. It's like, okay, on the test, the question reads something like, the War of 1812 was started in 1812. What year did the War of 1812 begin? And then options were A, B, C, or D. You've got like 1810, 1812, 1814, 1816, blah, blah, blah. And they did the test that way, where the answers were literally written into the question, so therefore anybody, most anybody can get that 100%. And they did the test, and yep, all the kids got it 100%. And they tested them in that fashion for a period of like 1 or 2 months or something like that. And then they put them back into the environment where, where they tested them in a normal test environment, where it's like, okay, you don't have the answers written into the questions and stuff. It's like, and their reaction was basically, again, being a chicken with its head cut off, and they didn't know what to do. They panicked. Some of them had panic attacks, I've heard some people say in retrospect. It's like, so they're like, no, we can't, I'm sorry, that's not a world I want to live in, where something like that happens. It's like, again, that's kind of the environment that we're raising right here. And it's the same way where you see some college professors getting sacked and getting completely thrown out of the university on their ass if they do a thing like, hey, especially if you're doing, and I don't know, I'm just going to name this as an example. If you're a law student, for example, you have to just keep in mind that as a lawyer, there's going to be cases you take where you're defending somebody or even prosecuting somebody that you agree with. Somebody where you're like, hey, this guy, you're prosecuting this guy for, I don't know, let's just say it was somebody that stole from a gas station or something. But as it turns out, this guy had a family to feed, and he was completely out of means, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff. So it's like there's the part of the prosecutor that just doesn't want to go after this guy. He broke the law, but I understand why he broke the law. Or you have, a case where it's like, okay, you have this other defendant or whatever, and you have to defend her, and she is a murderer. Or she is a, somebody that, was a racial-based serial killer or something. Something that, people are just typically going to say, I don't want to touch this person. They're so despicable. But as a lawyer, it might be your job one day to defend that person. It's like, okay, you have to prepare people for that. So, generally speaking, it's like I'm kind of pro that in a way. I'm like, I'm somebody that says, okay, the world isn't perfect. Let's not pretend it is. You have to kind of prepare people for worst case scenarios and stuff. And you get the opportunity to learn from stuff like that, to expand yourself. And that's not to say that you have to go out there and, turn course. If you believe in something, it doesn't mean if you're, doing something else that's the opposite of that you have to immediately love it. I'm not saying that. But it's like, and maybe an experience doing that reinforces what you already thought and further proves that, yeah, what you were thinking, you agree with more and stuff. But you don't know that until you try it, kind of thing. So, yeah, personally, going back and doing that with books and stuff, it's like, and in some cases films, it's like, no, I'm personally not in favor of that. I prefer the disclaimer things. I prefer those where you say, hey, just know going into this, we acknowledge, yeah, not all this is perfect. To pretend it didn't happen is worse than, saying that this behavior is good. Because I know some people make the argument in a weird way, taking the behavior out is rewarding it, but it's like, that doesn't really make sense, though. I've heard some people try to phrase it that way, but it's like, no, I don't know if I agree with that, but it's like, no. Anyway, so just seeing Wonka and, just knowing the Roald Dahl thing that was happened fairly recently there, it's like, oh, I don't know. Censorship with art is always something where it's like, I don't know. I get it sometimes, but other times I'm like, no, I'm not in favor of it. So, yeah, so there's that. So I don't know, and I don't know if Wonka is going to be something that they're going to look at as an Oscar player, or if it's just going to be a fun kind of Christmas timey release if it still holds up in December. Let's see. Otherwise, I think there's only one other one in December that's on the calendar right now that I'm, would peg as a potential player in next year's Oscars, and that's a remake of The Color Purple. This time, I believe they do have a director who is a person of color, which, again, it's like, okay, that's great, and maybe there is a new version of the story to tell. I don't know if it's going to be set in the same time period, or if it's going to be a more updated version, or it doesn't sound like it. It says right here it's set in the early 1900s, which, if memory serves, was also the setting for the 85 version. Yep, early 20th century. That's right. Yeah, because I think eventually there's a car in that movie, isn't there? Like they go far enough into the future where there's a car, or am I just not remembering that correctly? Maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but yeah. Anyways, but it's like, and maybe that's also speaking to some political correctness that you have to do a new version with a person of color directing it, otherwise it's bad. But I don't know. And again, I always say, go back to 85. Spielberg, people were pissed that Spielberg was not nominated for directing it as a white guy, as a white Jewish guy. And he was also in the play for Amistad, which is, again, another kind of film that if it was made today, you'd get rocks thrown at you if you didn't direct, if the film was not directed by a person of color, kind of thing. Anyways, but and it's obviously it's the studio's decision to hire who they want to hire, and get a director who has the vision that'll, bring the film to the finish line. And particularly, I don't know this one. It's Blitz, also known as Blitz the Ambassador, but Blitz Bazawuli, who is from Ghana. So, I'm not familiar with his work. But it sounds like he is a... Okay, rapper, singer-songwriter, record producer, author. What has he done for film? He's done The Burial of Kojo and Black is King. Now, Black is King I remember, because it's a documentary, right? Or am I overthinking it? That was like a Beyonce was involved with that, because it kind of had to do with kind of some stuff like Lion King related. That's right. Yeah. But it's on Disney Plus. But yeah. Anyway, so so that's one that's coming out in December, and I would say that's easily going to be a contender next year. Throw it in the hunt for sure. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure how big it's going to go over. It might be a really great adaptation. It might be better than the 85 version. We don't know. That's one I'm going to be curious about. Let's see. Otherwise, I'm going to look back again here and see if there's any directors coming back this year that we haven't seen in a while. Gran Turismo? Neil Blomkamp is doing that one. Does he have... I'm surprised I'm not seeing What's-His-Nuts in there. He's worked on him with every film. Oh, God, that's embarrassing. Charlton Copley, that's right, yeah. Who, by the way, was very good. District 9 is a movie that holds up. And Charlton's performance in that is excellent. Really great. Maybe didn't get enough credit for its back in the day. But, that's a good one, for sure. Let's see. Again, I'm looking through to see if there's any other, directors coming back this year. But I did skip one. Asteroid City. This is Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson's new film. Roman Coppola is also writing this one with him. Set in the 50s. Stargazer Convention. Let's see. Let's name off the cast, shall we? I don't know if this is in particular order or not, but Tilda Swinton, Adrian Brody, Tom Hanks, Margot Robbie, Rupert Friend, Jason Schwartzman, Scarlett Johansson, Hope Davis, Jeff Goldblum, Jeffrey Wright, Liev Schreiber, Tony Revolori, Matt Dillon, Sophia Lillis, Maya Hawke, Edward Norton, Steve Carell, Hong Chow, Willem Dafoe, Rita Wilson. Damn. He always gets a big cast in there. No Bill Murray. Maybe he's in it. We'll see. But yeah. So well, I don't know. The last one he I didn't work for me. What was the name of it again? French Dispatch. Yeah, that one didn't work for me. Yeah, I wasn't. Grand Budapest is still. Yeah, that's still the one I'll go back to and say, yeah, that was really wonderful work. Um, Anything else? Yeah, I'm not really seeing too much else on the docket so far. But yeah, we'll see what all happens this year with like some of the acquisitions. I didn't really hear too much from some of the Sundance stuff, except for like the Michael J. Fox documentary, which sounds really good to see, and the Brooke Shields documentary, which for me is particular interest. Yeah, I feel like her story is still a good one to tell. I always go back to say go to Pretty Baby, which is a tough. That's kind of a rough one to get through because the subject matter is kind of rough. And the way it's done and stuff, you just feel dirty watching it. But maybe that's part of the artistic thing of what Louis Malle was doing with that one. Blue Lagoon and Endless Love. That's kind of her, what I call the Brooke Shields sex icon trilogy. It's like, yeah, she kind of did the first one. And people were like, oh, okay, that's, and by the way, again, I've sat through that one, Pretty Baby, and I'm not saying I'm not proud of it, but it's like, it again, for especially today's audiences are just going to be squirmish and squeamish the whole time. They're going to be like, oh my God, why are we watching this? But it's like, in a weird way, that's what makes it more fascinating, because it's like on top of that, you have, oh God, I can't remember his name. One of the Carradines. Is it John Carradine in that one? Keith Carradine. It's Keith Carradine in that one. That's right. Okay. But yeah, it's like Keith Carradine, Susan Sarandon, and Brooke Shields all give excellent performances. My Lord. What they are asked to do in that movie is brilliant acting from them. Brooke Shields, I swear, she did some other stuff, but it's like, for her, that was an excellent performance. And again, tough role, especially at an age like that, playing a character like that, but she did a hell of a job with that movie. And it's not hard to see why, she kind of became kind of an actress of the moment based off that, because it's like, okay, not only is she great to look at and stuff, and it's like, they do kind of beautify her as a, what was she, 11, 12-year-old when she shot the movie. Like, ugh, again, you look at it and you're like, ick, and all that stuff. But it's like, damn, though, it's like, yeah, you feel really uncomfortable watching it, but that might be the point of it. And it is, it's a movie that's kind of in a weird way makes you still feel kind of bad when the ending happens and when certain relationships end and are cut so abruptly and stuff. It's like, you still feel kind of bad and you feel like, ugh, kind of thing. But at the same time, it's like, oh, but at the same time, this guy, what one of the guys do is really creepy. But also what Susan Sarandon done is, what she does as well is just absolutely awful. What she makes her, because Brooke Shields plays her daughter in the film, what she makes her go through and what she makes her do is just awful and terrible. And the whole thing is kind of debauchery in a way, and all that. But it's beautifully shot. Craft-wise, it's very well done. And yeah, Louis Malle is a hell of a director. And it's like, I think people knew it even back then. I think Gene Siskel put this supposedly in his top films of the year, despite it being pretty much openly child pornography, which is weird, and everything. But yeah, it's like, it was still at the time critically lauded for some of its aspects. But yeah, again, it is a tough film to sit through in many extents. And yeah, it's a fascinating film to look back on and stuff. But it's like, it's not one I've ever been able to just sit down and watch again. Absolutely not. Yeah, I don't know. It's not it's definitely not a film for everyone. But if you can handle it, there's good nuggets of stuff in there. And again, some really good, strong acting performances that help you through it, for sure, as uncomfortable as it is and as weird as it is. Then you get the Blue Lagoon, which I think I've expressed on camera before, but not to go overboard with it, but it's one of my ultimate like cheesy like kind of guilty pleasure movies because it is so bad. It is so bad. I actually had a friend over the other day and we sat and watched it, and she had heard of it, and part of the I had her, she picked out what one we were going to watch, but she picked it out, and she's kind of like, oh, this, because there's been some articles I guess in the last few weeks or the last month or so about Brooke Shields' career and stuff and everything. And I actually did read, this is back in like 2014, she had a memoir come out that was about her relationship with her mother and what her mother kind of made her go through acting-wise and modeling-wise and stuff in her very early years and everything, and all that, and kind of the weird and curious relationship they had afterwards, but there was still always a love there between them, even if she was an alcoholic and Brooke was going through hard times, and there was some questionable behavior going on and off the set, but her mother wasn't very supportive, and all that stuff. But it was like it's there's a story there for sure, and I'm glad she was able to tell it, and I'm very curious to see what this documentary is about. But still, God, that Blue Lagoon movie, it's like, it's so beautifully shot. The music score by Basil Poledouris might be the most beautiful film score I've ever heard in my life, and I'm not exaggerating with that. It is absolutely the most beautiful film score I've ever heard in my life. And I am actually working right now on a new adaptation of that, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but there's a way to tell that story and make it good, because what they did, woof, some of it is not good. And unfortunately, I think, Shields' performance is not that great. Christopher Atkins also, no, not a thespian. Not a thespian by any means. Anyways, but I always say, because the Blu-ray I have, there's a version of it you can watch where they turn the sound off and it's just the music score. It's just an isolated music track. And I'm like, just turn the subtitles on. You're watching a silent movie and you might get a better experience. I don't know, because then the exaggerated acting and stuff and all, the exaggerated facial expressions, it's more fitting. It's more fitting in a silent setting and stuff. But my lord, yeah, some of the unintentional comedic moments in that film is great, absolutely great. But she enjoyed it as well in its own way and everything. And it was, again, it's a guilty pleasure for me. It's one of those where I go back and I'm like, okay, I know I'm not really in love with this movie, but I'm kind of in love with this movie, kind of thing. It's kind of it is kind of a so bad it's good type movie. Then you get Endless Love, and it's like by that point she'd kind of been established, and this is just another chapter in it and stuff. But it kind of solidified that she is kind of the sex symbol of the early '80s and stuff. And but still, through both those movies, my God, her eyebrows though, whoa! I mean, wow, yeah, that's all I got to say about that. But her performance in that too was also very not great. It's like her acting unfortunately kind of went like that, starting with Pretty Baby, kind of slid down the slide there or whatever, but of mediocrity. But that being said, though, Endless Love has a couple good things about it. Again, some of the supporting performances are okay, like the dad and the mom, interesting performances at least. And you do have, again, I would say one of my favorite songs of all time with Lionel Richie and Diana Ross's Endless Love. I don't know why, but that's one of my favorite songs. My love, there's only you in my life, the only thing that's right. All right, I could go on, but I'm not going to. That has stuck with me, and it's a great song. So we got that out of it. So yeah. Anyway, so the whole point of that was, there is a Brooke Shields documentary out. Do I expect either of these two docs to be nominated, though? It's tough to tell, because, again, it's like we always say, when you get certain documentaries about popular subject matters, like Mr. Rogers, or the Apollo missions, or Hoop Dreams, certain documentaries that catch fire, and they get certain accolades, and they start getting popular, they either become March of the Penguins, where it's like, okay, they still end up getting nominated and they win, or the Academy rejects them and they just don't get nominated. And it's a very touchy, kind of thing with them. Even Questlove's documentary from last year, Summer Soul, I think, was one that could have gone either way, and good for him that it did get in and won and everything. But still, that doc nominating that branch and stuff, the ones that pick the nominees, they are very sometimes very anti-populist stuff. So, yeah, it's interesting. Anyways, but yeah. Otherwise, those are some of the things I heard about from Sundance this year. Otherwise, I didn't really. I always kind of like to be surprised from what comes at Sundance. Like last year, Coda was a good surprise to come out of that one. Because I'd heard good things about it and stuff, and then when it kind of finally came out from Apple and stuff, I was like, oh yeah, this is a good movie, really good movie, and it was that year one of my favorite nominees. So yeah. Let's see. Otherwise we'll have to see. Okay, what comes up on the fall festival circuit and stuff when we get closer to Toronto time. Let's see here. We'll have a couple other ones thrown in there that are wrapping here. Post-production's wrapping pretty soon. Some of those ones from expected directors or sometimes not expected directors, like the Danielses this year. Yeah. I don't know. Do I have anything else to say? I feel like I've asked that question. Then we went on even longer with the early preview for next year's stuff. But and again, it's always very early to go into stuff like that, and you never know if it's actually gonna come to fruition. It's like you can't really take a stab at it. Like at least this time last year, we knew Fabelmans was coming. We knew Top Gun was coming, even though we didn't think that was going to be an Oscar player necessarily. We knew Avatar was coming. We knew there was a chance Avatar could get some stuff. I'm trying to think what else was on the schedule this time last year. I think Elvis. We were aware of Elvis at least because that was a summer release. I think Banshees was one that popped up through the season. Tar popped up. Women Talking, I believe, popped up. So yeah, you get some of those that pop up once in a while. Yeah, I don't know. Otherwise, I think that's what we got for now. I will be back on Tuesday. I decided Tuesday is the day I'm going to do it. I'm going to do my March Madness bracket this year. Again, all the 12 of you that watched that video, because it's not Oscar related, so I understand if it's not for everybody, but it's more predicting stuff, and I love predicting stuff or trying to predict stuff. So that's always one I have fun with. And it's kind of weird because they did Selection Sunday like literally less than 2 hours before the Oscars started. So I was like that was very front of mind for me. And then it's like, oh shit, the Oscars are in like 15 minutes. Now I got to totally scramble my brain around and go into Oscar mode. So yeah, that was kind of different. But still, yeah, I spent like almost a full 2 hours just worrying about, oh god, do I go with the 12 over the 5? Do I go with the 4 over the 13? It's like, and yeah, some of their picks this year, it's like some of those are going to be very interesting. Kent State, look out for Kent State. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them, but Kent State's a possible Cinderella to look for. Iona could be a Cinderella again this year. Who else on paper looked like a possible? Drake, possible Cinderella as well. Let's see, who else? I feel like UCLA and Texas as 2 seeds are going to get some easy brackets possibly. Kansas State is a sleeper to watch out for as a 3 seed. But yeah, for those of you who I'm speaking a different language, yeah, I'll have a different video for that on Tuesday. And I think that'll wrap up all the stuff for this time of year. Again, I teased it last video as well, but I haven't gotten to it again. But I do have another video and a series of videos that I'm planning on working on. And I started writing out the script for voiceover for what I would do with the first video. And I think I got to a little over the halfway mark on that one. So it's like, okay, I can write all this stuff, and then, because I plan to just write out the whole voiceovers for all the videos first. That way I know what I'm doing. I'll record them. I'll basically, make any adjustments I have to on the fly and be like, okay, let's do this. Then I need to pick out this. Again, this is going to be a totally different type of video than what I've done on the channel before, but I need to pick out clips. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say. And then I have to edit it all together, and then I have to... I don't have to necessarily finish them all and have them all, done in editing and get picture lock on all of them, so to speak. Picture lock. I don't have to, be at that stage where I release the first one. It's like, hey, if I have like 2 or 3 of them ready to go, then I might release the first one. So I don't know if that's going to be in the middle of the summer here. I don't know if it's going to be as early as 2 weeks from now. Probably not. I don't know if that's going to be by the time we get to next year's Oscar previews, when we get to like late August, September. That could be around that time, but I don't know. So that's coming when it's coming. There's no set release date on that. Otherwise, I'll keep writing. I've got the third book in my series. I don't have any copies with me here right now for the Winter Loan series, and I'm up to page 194 on the first draft of the third book. And there's some good shit in this third book. I'm really enjoying this one. Like I said, otherwise I do, I'm hoping to get in some contact here pretty soon with some literary agents, and I'm hoping maybe one day I'll get some screenplays out there for people to look at. We'll see. But that new version of Blue Lagoon I think could work out. We'll see. So I got to work on that some from time to time too. But anyways, that's all I got for now. This is wrapping up the 2023 Oscar season. It was a weird season. In some ways, it was, every season's fun and different, and we had a fun and different movie at the head of this one. It was kind of more of a genre film, which, if Return of the King has proved anything else to us as well with this result tonight with 7 wins, sometimes when they go genre, they kind of go full genre, and they're not afraid to shy away from that. Star Wars took, 5 competitive awards and 1 or 2 special awards the night of that Oscars as well. So they're not afraid to go genre and go full with it. Even Dune last year, you could say, with its tech wins and stuff, they kind of went genre with that one too, with some of the tech wins. And it won a lot of those tech categories. So maybe that's another lesson to learn, but yeah. All right, that's all I got for now. So we will see you guys Tuesday. For those of you who want to follow March Madness and want to see my picks, we will go into that on Tuesday. And I have until then to finalize them. I have a few ideas right now, but I don't know. Those are always really tricky. Really tricky. So we'll go into that next time. And after that, again, when I have the next series out, or when I start it, that might be before next year's Oscars start up, but we will see.